Hello, everyone. We're actually here at the last session of the Innovate for Climate Social Digital Media Zone. We're coming live from Frankfurt. Please follow the conversation following the hashtag Innovate for Climate. This is the third and last day of the conference. We see people still networking, still having great conversations, and we're very excited to have Graham Smith, Director of Sustainable Finance for HSBC, for our last conversation. So to put a little bit of background, HSBC is increasingly forward-leaning in sustainable development and climate. Last year, the bank announced it will provide a $100 billion by 2020 for sustainable financing and investment, while also thinking about reducing the coal investments, adopting the recommendations of the Task Force for Climate-Related Financial Disclosures, TCFD, among other things. So what has driven HSBC to make these commitments?
I think it's interesting. When we look at this, when we talk to our staff internally, what we say to them is there's three reasons why they should be interested in sustainable financing. One is reputation. We're finding that our stakeholders, our shareholders, the market, and even more importantly, the young people that we want to come and work for us, they're looking to see what we're doing in this sustainable space. So reputation is one of the reasons. Another is regulation. We're increasingly seeing that governments around the world are making changes that push businesses and banks into doing more sustainable financing. France introduced a regulation 173, which obliges banks and investors to disclose what it is that they're doing that is good green business and what they're doing that's brown business. And I'd say that the final one is opportunity. We're seeing companies in this space growing by about 20% year on year, and that's really, really impressive growth. Average annual global growth is around about 5%. So if you're seeing an area which is growing at 20% a year, that's where you should be. But I reckon perhaps the most important thing is that a good bank represents the economy in which it lives, the economy of today. A bad bank reflects the economy of 5 years ago, but a very good bank reflects the economy of 5 years in the future. And I think that for us, we're seeing the future as being a low-carbon world, so that's what we've got to be doing.
That's very interesting. So it sounds like this is coming from different perspectives, from shareholders, businesses, from your core of your business, and seeing the vision for the bank going forward. It's very good to hear. Many financial institutions are making similar commitments now. But do you think this is a trend in green financing? Do you see many banks joining you in becoming the banks of the future?
I think so. I think that what's really happening, I think some of the European banks and a couple of the big American banks have led the way. We're seeing increasing interest from banks across Asia, then Latin America, and then Africa looking at this. And I think that what they're all realizing is that they have to understand it, they have to move with it, because one of the key things is transition risk. You have to understand that if you have a client base that's not reacting to a low-carbon economy, then actually you've got some big risks. So you have to understand that you need to move with those companies as they progress, with the economy as it changes. If not, you're running more risks. So I think that banks will increasingly change, partly to be good citizens, but also partly because they think, actually, if we don't move with this in the right direction, we run more risks.
See, how important has the Paris Agreement been to this realization? It sounds like you are reacting to also to the market, to the economy, not just necessarily to this climate change concern, which is very interesting and it's what's going to move things forward. But then did the Paris Agreement perhaps give a push, give an extra incentive to this movement?
Yeah, I think the fact that the Paris Agreement was signed, initially I think by every country in the world apart from the three. I think now there's only one country which hasn't signed up, which I think is Venezuela. So I think that having that international push has been very, very important. I think the other thing that's interesting about the Paris Agreement is it's set a sort of a destination, but it's been much more like sort of a motorway sign saying, you've got a long way to go, but you need to go in this direction. What we are seeing and what we're asking for from governments around the world is you need to get more clarity further down. And a good example is the UK. The UK produced NDCs, post Paris, post COP21. They then produced legislation, the Clean Air Act. They then started to look at, okay, let's have targets, no more liquid fuel vehicles after 2040. And now they're into ultra-low emission zones in cities in the UK. So they're actually we're seeing how that pushes down. And as that pushes down, we can react to it. So, for example, right now in London, you cannot register a new taxi unless it's electric. So for us, that says to us, okay, we can now look at financing electric taxis. And I think that's what we're looking to see. Paris becomes is one thing, but when we need more clarification, more detail, and we need it to keep going so we can then start picking up the opportunities.
What's another cool project that you've financed lately that does that shows the way forward, the where we're going? Yeah.
Perhaps a good one was we did something only last week with a big water and waste company in the UK, and what we did with them was a lease, but it was a green lease under something called the Green Loan Principles. There's a new definition of what a green loan is that was published on the 21st of March. It covers Asia, Europe, and it's going to cover the US soon. And this company actually came to us saying, we want to do a green project. So we looked at their business and said, actually, we think that you have got quite a green angle here in terms of what you're doing around water treatment. So what we did, we financed a brand new water plant for them under a leasing structure. And for them, they were delighted. It showed that they're going the right direction. It was financing. It's long-term, it's tax efficient. And for us, that's interesting. You're taking a company, they're saying, we want to do something green. You work with them, understand what they're doing, and then you give them the money. And the beauty about that is the company then goes, right, what can we do next?
That's great to hear, and that's a great way of closing the Innovate for Climate Digital Media Zone with innovations, with green finance, and with the banking sector taking the lead. So this is great news. Please follow the conversation with hashtag Innovate for Climate. Make sure you check out our Facebook page for all the presentations that came before us. And looking forward to seeing you next year, wherever we go, hopefully in Asia. See you next time. Thank you.